Hello and welcome to another video. In this video I will present you my ultimate Tactician Authority build I'm using for my legendary solo runs, as well as for other stuff too. And I know I presented my build not that long ago in another video, but without commentary from my side, and I got so many questions over different channels like Reddit and YouTube and others, and I thought it's much easier to do another video and explain something more about my build and my thinking behind, because one of the most frequently asked questions is, hey, don't interrupt me, most of frequently asked question is if this is the only viable option to run this build, or you can change something out and you're still successful with it. And to answer this question at the beginning, yeah, guys, you can really relax and sit back. This is definitely not the only option you can run this, but I will show you what changes you can make and what are viable options too. So,
we can't rest until all these psychos are taken care of. Some ugly rumors about this one, so watch your...
So just start, and not as the other videos I saw with weapons, although the weapons are a really important part in this build. I'll show you why in a minute, but let's just start with the gear pieces and go ahead with chest. My preferred choice is a Barrett bulletproof chest piece, because of course the first one, no skill and cooldown, increase skill power by 10%, especially if you arrive to a new part or a new area in a legendary. You can just deal much more damage with your skills, especially just imagine napalm. If you shoot the first sticky at the first agent, you just do much more damage to them. That's why I prefer Barretts. Major attributes, the best thing for me is always have health and skill haste on it. Minor attributes doesn't matter that much. Skill XP, increased skill XP is pretty nice. This weekend you have more caches, so that works pretty well, but ammo capacity, skill, kill XP doesn't matter that much. Major attributes, if you want to go full out damage with the skills, you can also choose enemy armor damage instead of health. But especially when you run solo, yeah, I prefer to have health. A little bit of stamina is more important to me. Survivability, because you get shot very often and you die much faster if you don't have a little bit of health. So what are other options for the chest here? There are two in my opinion. First of all, of course, you can run a Tactician's Authority vest too. As you see, this one is not that nice because it has all resistance with it, which is pretty useless. Health would be much better, but Tactician's Authority is option 2, of course, or the other option would be Vigorous. Here too, especially if you run in a group or with a healer, that's a pretty nice choice as well. So Barrett's, Vigorous or Tactician's Authority are here viable options too. Let's go ahead. Mask. My preferred choice is to have a Tactician's Authority mask as well. Every gear piece rolled into electronics with my Tactician build. Major attributes, there are two options. You can use skill power, or I tested out many things, you can trust me guys. Skill power and enemy armor damage for PvE content is pretty equal. PvP, of course, always check that you have skill power here. Minor attributes, PvE, you have to have damage to elites to deal as most damage as possible to the elites, NPCs. That's really important. For PvP, choose here burn resistance. That's pretty nice to have. Other options here on this part, there is just one other option in my opinion. You can also use the rehabilitated mask, this one here, which heals you with 2% while on the status effects. It's pretty nice as well, because you get a heal when you're on the burn effect, when you bleed, and especially for legendary missions. Just imagine napalm especially, or the agents or the grenadiers, they shoot you and you're on the bleed effect, you get health out of it, so you don't die that fast. And especially in Napalm, the last part where you have to fight the 4 agents on the top floor, you always get you almost always are on full health because you get the 2% health effect when you're on the burn. Pretty nice. And as you see, major as well, enemy armor damage and minor damage to elites. So these are the options for this part here. And knee pads here, unfortunately, just one option for me at least. You have to have Tactician's knee pads. Skill power, major attribute, and minor, of course, damage to elite. This one are pretty god roll in my opinion. Bleed resistant is pretty nice to have. Burn would be pretty nice too. And disrupt. Yes, you get disrupted from other agents, and that you have your skills back as fast as possible. Disrupt this resistance is pretty nice to have. But honestly, it doesn't matter that much. So just look if you have one with skill power and damage to elites, that's decent, and electronics. And of course, if you're on the status effects, you can use always, don't forget, your consumables. Just use an energy bar that will remove your status effects as well. So let's go ahead. Backpack. My preferred choice is inventive, just to max out the possible skill power you can get. This is about 450,000. And yeah, here of course major attribute, skill power, minor, you don't need ammo with this build, so go for burn resistance, it's pretty nice to have. That's my preferred choice to have here. I don't use this one, so let's get rid of. And there are, in my opinion, 2 other options you can run here too. One of course, which you can use almost in every build as well, is the specialized backpack, specialized with an increased skill power all the time, not only when you're full health, is pretty nice. But as you see, it's about 6,000, it's about 10 to 11,000 more. It's not that much as with an inventive, but more than without nothing. So specialized, pretty nice as well. And of course, you will have a look that you don't have health like I have here. You need to have skill power as well. Or the third option for me is not inventive, relentless, where you have another healing source. So if you build a Tactician's build, then always check or decide what is your source of healing with your build. And that could be one source of healing with it. It's pretty nice to use, so give it a try if you haven't already. Major theme, minor theme, and of course disrupt again is pretty nice too. Disrupt or burn. Much better in my opinion than ammo capacity, but it doesn't matter that much. Yes, 3 options here as well. Options. Then Tactician's Authority Gloves. Yeah, Tactician Gloves, for me this pair I have here is almost god roll in my opinion, except that the stats are not the highest ones. But of course electronics roll pretty high here. Major attributes, health and kills, pretty nice to have. Not a must in my opinion. Skill haste is a must, and enemy armor damage as well, if you will use this for PvE content to do as much damage as possible. Yeah, and gloves as well, if you don't play, don't have, what shall I say, if you don't want to play a hybrid build with more firearms, then this is the only option you have here. Otherwise, of course, you could run with a hybrid build the Savage Gloves as well. But not for me, not on this build. Yes, and the last part of piece is the holster. Here, of course, you have to have a high roll electronics. Pretty high roll on the other stats is nice to have. Major attributes, my preferred choice is always skill haste. Is not a viable option for me here for a tactician build, so check it out if you got the one with skill haste. You have one other option here. Like I said, you always have to consider about which sort of heal you will use with a tactician's build, and you can use, of course, if you're used to nimble. I'm honest with you, I'm not really used to nimble in this game, so that's why I don't use nimble, but this would be a viable option too, with skill haste of course again. Yes, that's with it, that's the part of my build. Let's go to the mods. Mods, you will see I run on every gear piece skill power electronics mod and C command damage. And here you have two options. For the prototype electronics mods, in my opinion, you run these mods I run here with skill power, or you have the choice to run skill haste as well. But this is a matter or a question, what are you running on your weapon? So let's go to the weapon first. And as you see here, I run determined on my weapon, which means that you get your skills really fast, especially if you play solo, because you kill that many NPCs in that short time and it gets stacked. So if you kill an NPC, 7.5% is like the same as adept, you can stack it up and you will get the skills pretty fast. That's why you can go full out skill power here. Yeah, and if you haven't a weapon with determined, then I would suggest you to do more damage here. So go for talented, this one here, instead of determined, and do a little bit more damage with his skills, except then the as an option for the skill power mods here. Yes, and for my performance mods, prototype performance, I usually choose C command, because if you check out my runs in legendary missions, the only thing I never change is the commands, so it's nice to do more damage with them. But of course you can, if you run turret, you can go for a turret damage as well. If you use your sticky bomb very often, you can choose turret damage as well. These are the three viable options here for me. So let's go back to the weapon. As you see, the things which are really important for PvE content is destructive and ferocious, especially if you fight against elite or named enemies, the bosses in legendary missions, or incursions or other challenge missions. This is pretty nice to have. I always have one which I can do the most damage, and I have another one, secondary, for my healing resource. As you see here, Predator in the third slot, so you get 35% heal for 20 seconds while killing a target, and that happens pretty often. That's pretty nice to have. So these are the main talents you should look at if you craft a weapon, a 2041. And just check out the vendors, they're usually all the time AK 204 weapons to sell, and craft yourself one until you have a pretty nice roll. This is pretty nice, 22% enemy armor damage, and the 2 damage skills as well. So check this out. Yes, and for my character sheet, it's not that important, the most stats of it. Just change to this one. As you see, firearms doesn't matter, electronics pretty high, weapons doesn't matter that much. Damage to elites is important. Look that you had this high stat. You can go and increase this much more if you use the purple mods with damage to elites, but just if you run of course missions where you have to fight against many elites that are challenging missions and all incursions, then this is really can be a viable option too. Health on kill is pretty nice to have, not a must, and enemy armor damage is always have a look that you have a high stack here as roll, a high roll. Skills, skill power, it's now of course with my stack from 8%, so it's about 450,000 without. Pretty nice as well. And survivability, yes, kill haste, you see, determined do the job for me. I don't have to have that much skill haste on my build. Survivability, pretty low. Tactician's build, you don't need it much higher. Yeah, that's the most important things. Let's go to the skills. Sticky bomb, that's with the stacks, as you see. Just get rid of my stacks, that you see the true stacks here. Oh. Sticky bomb, that's now too low. Funny, slower than usual. Yeah, now, strange. Yeah, about 1.27 millions with my sticky, 13 100,000 with my turret and 96,000 with my seekers with the mods, of course. If you run solo, always choose a recovery link. In a group you have other options as well, of course, depends what your teammates are running. Talents, I prefer to have strike pack just to get your skills a little bit fast if you're on low health. Death by proxy, pretty nice to have. You destroy many skills of your NPCs or your hostiles, and that's pretty nice to increase of 20% for 30 seconds, pretty long time. Of course, also nice to have Demolition Expert, because you normally always kill the first guy with a sticky, then that's Demolition Expert procs. You can throw your Seekers, you do more damage than to just one target, and you have chain reaction as well, so much more damage than usual. These are a must-have in my opinion. If you want a little bit more survivability, just choose critical save instead of demolition dead by proxy. This is another option, of course. Yeah, that's it for the build, guys. And you can use the same build for your healer build, just with a few changes. If you are interested to see this build in detail as well, just leave a comment down below. If this was useful for you guys, I appreciate it a lot if you give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment down below, subscribe if you haven't already, and I see you in the next one. Cheers guys, bye bye.